Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 215 based on novel. So let's start. The black dragon spear on his back suddenly came alive and swam around the little fox. The black dragon, with only its bones left, slowly said, "My name is Longtuor, and I'm a dragon king of the devil race." "And you are completely right, my lord, and I can indeed separate her soul from her primordial spirit, though that would be abnormally painful." Hulinga examined divine spear Longtuor, and suddenly thought of an idea. She hurriedly raised her hand up with sparkling eyes. I still have. I thought of another idea. We can ask Grandpa Mute to smelt her in his furnace to turn her primordial spirit into water before pouring molten iron on it. We'll see if she will talk or not. This little fox is also not easy to deal with. God Sang Yi shuddered and hurriedly said, "Let me bring her away for interrogation." "Gentlemen, I will be leaving first. Without Embroiling City is just in front of us, so may you guys help me guard it for 2 days. After saying so, he grabbed Qian Fengou's body and primordial spirit and left in a hurry. "Granny, Grandpa Apothecary, why have you all of you guys come to Supreme Emperor Heaven?" Qin Mu immediately asked. Granny Sai raised her hand and stroked his head. Qin Mu immediately lowered his head so Granny Sai could continue stroking with a smile. "You've grown even taller and are about to catch up to Apothecary. If you grow a little higher, Blind will only be able to reach your waist." Blind wasn't very happy to hear that. "Granny, my body is still growing. Did you see God Sang Yi just now? He's 20,000 years old and his height is terrifying. It shows that the longer you live, the taller you will grow." Granny Sai rolled her eyes at him. "Blind, your intelligence is also only so high. Mua, we came to see you and to look at the methods of cultivation here, to see if we can find a way to break through. We have all reached our bottlenecks, and the divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven that you had sent to Heavenly Saint Academy were quite useful. We watched them and learned a little, but if we wanted the whole cultivation system, we still needed to come to Supreme Emperor Heaven to look for more profound methods." Qin Mu had indeed discussed with Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and True God Pang Yu to dispatch some young divine arts practitioners to Eternal Peace to learn the paths, skills, and divine arts. At the same time, they could impart the techniques of Supreme Emperor Heaven to Eternal Peace, patching up where the cultivation of Eternal Peace's techniques was lacking. With the divine arts practitioners on both sides complementing each other, they could all advance at astonishing speed. However, that only applied to divine arts practitioners. To people like Granny Sai, who had already patched her divine bridge and entered the celestial palaces, or strong practitioners that were about to enter the celestial palaces, that wasn't enough. After all, the divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven that headed to Eternal Peace to seek knowledge usually didn't have high cultivation. Furthermore, Granny Sai and the rest required a god-level cultivation system. Qin Mu pondered it for a moment, then said, "In that case, who is in charge of Heavenly Saint Academy now?" "Heavenly King Shi, Heavenly King Yu, and the rest of them. There's also a few elders there," Granny Sai said while chuckling. "The scholars of Supreme Emperor Heaven are very dumb and pitifully stupid. They couldn't learn algebra no matter what, so it's best to let the elders and heavenly kings of Heavenly Saint cult have the headache. God Sang Yi asked for our help in guarding Without Embroiling City, so let's head there." Qin Mu nodded. Everyone was chatting and laughing with one another, so he also quickly forgot about his bloody buttocks and played around with Blind, Mute, and Cripple. The green bull saw the 4 short legs of the dragon Qilin, and his eyes lit up. He scampered over and stood up like a human to walk a couple rounds around him. The dragon Qilin's face turned dark, but he didn't say a word. He continued to walk forward. Divine spear longed to or transformed into the skeleton frame of the black dragon, and rattled as it swam in the air. Coming to Hu Linger's side, it thrust its head, and lifted the little fox, while asking with curiosity, "They have a grudge?" "How is it only a grudge?" "It's hatred for a seized wife." Hu Linger whispered. She told everything she knew, about how the grudge between the dragon Qin and the Green Bull had started from the time Qin Mu had entered Imperial College. The Green Bull was a flirtatious fellow, but he just had to be blind and thought that the dragon Qin was a female. He harassed him every day, when he passed by the mountain gate, and even gave him some flowers and grass. The dragon Qin knew he couldn't defeat Ba Shan, so he could only suffer in silence before bewitching Qin Mu to knock out the Green Bull with anesthesia. Qin Mu had refined lost fragrance, and when the imperial physicians of Hall of Supreme Healing learned of it, there was quite a havoc. Only then did the Green Bull learn that the dragon Qin was a male, and was sad for quite some time, before going off to flirt with some little cows happily. Of course, the two strange beasts began to feud after such events. The Green Bull thought the dragon Qin is a female, but is a male. So isn't this like the hatred for a seized wife? Hu Linger said. The black dragon trembled his skeletal frame and said in astonishment, "They actually have such a past." The dragon Qin looked down, looking calm, but he was twitching his ears. The Green Bull sneered. "What are you twitching your ears for?" "Damned fatty, you were very slim and looked like a female. Why have you become so fat now? I can't even see if you are walking on your feet, or rolling on your stomach. Look at me." He bent his arm and all the muscles on his body popped out as he sneered. "These are muscles, and what you have is only fat. Fighting makes you bold and powerful only when you are like me. Each of my punches uses all of my muscles, and every strike is powerful." The dragon Qin narrowed his eyes and opened its mouth, spitting out a Qin bead that had a radius of 2 feet. The bead blazed furiously in mid-air, lighting up the surroundings. The Green Bull shuddered and fell back a step, transforming back into a big green bull. With his tail tucked between his legs, he slipped back to Ba Shan's side. The dragon Qin opened his mouth to recall the Qin bead and sneered. "Fats. Do you know how much effort it took to refine such a big Qin bead?" Hu Linger whispered, "Fatty dragon, gaining a small advantage will do, know when to stop. If the two of you really fight, you might not be able to defeat that bull. You've eaten fewer spirit pills than the number of fights he's been in with Ba Shan. Be careful, or he'll see that you are just strong on the outside." The dragon Qin shivered with fear. He knew that the bull was a battle maniac like Ba Shan. His speed was faster than his, and his endurance was better as well, so if they really fought, he might not be his opponent. "I need to cultivate Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique more. If this bull sees that I'm not his match, he will definitely be coming to beat me up." He executed Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique, and trained diligently. Qin Mu saw this and he felt incredibly happy. He said with a smile, "I no longer need to worry about Fatty Dragon, he knows how to cultivate by himself." "That's right, Bull 2. The Green Bull hurriedly ran over and said with a smile, "Little old master, please speak." "Little old master has forgotten, I'm Bull 3. Linger is the big sister, Fatty is Dragon 2, and I'm ranked 3rd. However, I'll be able to get rid of the dragon Qin soon and be ranked 2nd. Qin Mu smiled. "You have the green dragon's bloodline too, right? I have received a technique, not long ago, that it's even more powerful than Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique. It's the #1 technique I have seen in my life. Since you have the bloodline of the dragon race as well, I shall teach it to you." The Green Bull was delighted and said while choked with emotions, "Little old master is so good to little cow. Little cow has nothing to give in return. I can only pay back little old master's benefaction, by offering my life in sacrifice. You saved my life in the Golden Palace, and I still have yet to thank you. How can this little thing be worth anything? Qin Mu said with a smile. He went through Ancestral Dragon's supreme mystery technique, and not only was the green bull was enthralled, but even Butcher, Granny Sai, Blind, and the rest were intoxicated. Great technique. Butcher let out a shaky breath and said solemnly, a god technique that has never been seen before. Mua, this should be a technique that could reach numinous sky hall of the celestial palaces and ascend to the emperor's throne, right? An intense sense of danger grew in the dragon Chilean's heart, and he cursed silently to himself. How will it be good once this damned bull learns Ancestral Dragon's supreme mystery technique? Won't he be able to beat me to death? That can't be. I need to cultivate, and I also need to eat more water element divine vitality pills. There were numerous divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven gathered in Without Embroiling City, some of which had come from Eternal Peace. Among them, there were scholars of Heavenly Saint Academy. When they saw Qin Mu, Granny Sai, and the rest coming to the Sentry Tower, they were both surprised and delighted. They came forward to greet them. Chancellor. Teacher Sai, Teacher Blind. There were also some that were scholars of Li River Academy, so they greeted Chancellor B.A. Shan. The place became very lively. B.A. Shan chuckled. You brats sure run fast, to have actually come here faster than me. He was the Grand Chancellor of Li River Academy, and he hadn't come to find Butcher, but in search of the path for a breakthrough in Supreme Emperor Heaven. Only when he passed by Heavenly Saint Academy, and saw Butcher, and the rest preparing to leave that he gave chase in a hurry. The affairs regarding Li River Academy had been handed over to Grand General who crowns the army Ma Dingshan. He was a great expert that was no inferior to him, and after quelling the rebellion, Emperor Yang Feng had kept his title and even conferred him as Chancellor of Li River Academy to assist B.A. Shan. There were also disciples of River Tomb Academy and Surging River Academy in the area. The Grand Chancellor of River Tomb Academy was Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, while the Grand Chancellor of Surging River Academy was High Official Suyunji, with the assistance of Yuyuan Chuyun and Yuyuan Chuyu. Suyunji had even sent Yuyuan Chuyu to find Qin Mu to borrow Surging River Dragon King Dragon, Rearing Sovereign, and 100 Years Mountain God, by Shi so they would give lectures at Surging River Academy. Qin Mu wasn't at Heavenly Saint Academy, so it was Hu Linga and Sai Yunxiang, who had received Yuyuan Chuyu, and secured lesson fees for Dragon Rearing Sovereign and God by Shi. They gave permission for scholars of Surging River Academy to frequently head to Surging River and 100 Years Mountain and offer sacrifices, which moved God by Shi to tears. Everyone caught up for a moment, and Qin Mu asked Butcher, Grandpa, what was the Emperor's Throne technique you mentioned earlier? God techniques still have a classification of levels. After I crossed the Divine Bridge and entered the Celestial Palaces, I could only stand outside Southern Heavenly Gate. However, from there, I could see all the Celestial Palaces, and some sacred grounds that had boundless ambience and looked extraordinarily sacred. Because of that, I guessed that there are several realms within God realm, and they should be separated into those sacred grounds. The highest and most sacred of them was the Emperor's throne in Celestial Palace Hall of Numinous Sky. Everyone crowded up, and Butcher felt pressured. I totally don't understand the realm of God, so I ain't clear how they're separated. Mute, come over, they are all staring at me like a bunch of silly roe deers. You know the most, so tell them. Mute placed his chest on the ground and took out a pipe to take 2 puffs. He said leisurely, bah. The numerous scholars of Imperial College obviously knew the rules and immediately looked toward Deaf. He stared at Mute, and Mute let out a puff of smoke which transformed into a gate. The first realm of God is outside Southern Heavenly Gate. People who reach it are known as honored gods, and this is only the first step after crossing the divine bridge. Entering southern heavenly gate is the second realm, and such people are called true gods. However, only after all aspects of the body are cultivated to God realm, could one endure the pressure of southern heavenly gate and walk through it. Mute still knows the most. What happens then? Blind said with praises. Mute puffed out a smoke ring which transformed into jasper pool. Deaf then continued, the third realm is called jasper pool, also known as heavenly pool, jasper terrace. People that reach it are called heavenly gods. Mute's smoke transformed into a stage for killing. It was a sacred ground as well, but the aura of murder was extremely heavy. The crowd shivered from just a look. The fourth realm is called God Execution Stage, and there's great danger to it. If one cannot cross it, they will die. Mute's smoke transformed into the fifth picture, and it was of a cluster of palaces. This sacred ground is called Jade Capital, the imperial city in which Celestial Emperor resides. Jade Capital is the fifth realm. Mute puffed out another smoke ring, which transformed into Numinous Sky Hall. This is Numinous Sky Hall, which Butcher had seen. The sixth realm is most likely called Numinous Sky, Deaf explained. While everyone looked, Mute blew a puff of smoke into Numinous Sky Hall and transformed it into the Emperor's throne. It was the seventh realm. Va Shan looked at Deaf, then at Mute. Full of doubt, he asked in a low voice, Junior brother, what did Senior Uncle Mute say exactly? Exactly what Grandpa Deaf said, Qin Mu whispered back. Va Shan scratched his head, still full of doubt. How does Senior Uncle Mute know so much? Even the divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven don't seem to know much about the later god realms. How then does he know about them in such detail? Qin Mu looked at him with a helpless expression. In our village, Grandpa Mute knows the most but speaks the least. He usually doesn't like to talk. I guess the secrets he knows mostly come from Parameter Arc since he's a descendant of Heavenly Works race. When the night descended, all the various divine arts practitioners went to rest. Qin Mu followed Granny Sai, blind, and the rest out of the sentry post to check on the ruins of Without Embroiling City. The battle there had to have been very bitter. Supreme Emperor Heaven had a total of 64 god cities in which there had been brutal battles, but most of them remained standing. There weren't many god cities that were completely destroyed by the war, but Without Embroiling City was one of such cities. Yet even with only ruins and dilapidated walls everywhere, one could still see how extraordinary this god city had once been. There were many remnants of divine arts left behind from the war between gods and devils lying dormant. They were like floating bubbles of multicolored sunlight, giving off a faint glow in the darkness. The remnant divine arts were very eye-catching, like lotuses gleaming in the darkness. They were growing in the debris of the battle. The silent lotuses bloomed and attracted people who had entered the area by mistake to gather them. If anyone touched them though, the power of the divine arts left behind by the gods and devils would activate. If it was to burst forth, it would definitely be extremely terrifying. They could shatter the bones of strong practitioners of Celestial Being Realm or Life and Death Realm without any difficulty. The divine arts left behind in the ruins were not only in the shapes of lotuses, but everything that could come to one's mind. Their sizes weren't uniform either. There were pieces of forest, lush grasslands, ground beasts like white foxes and flyers like vermilion birds. Some even looked like treasures of gods and devils. There were things like flying swords, pagodas, and cauldron. If anyone touched them though, they'd die a miserable death. Qin Mu looked around. The rune markings of gods and devils formed the remnants of the divine arts, so it was difficult for them to dissipate even through the passage of time. This led to the area becoming abnormally dangerous. Qin Mu had seen similar things in the ominous land, but he had luckily avoided all of them. When he thought about it, God sang, "Ye had to have spent quite some effort to clear out a safe zone in such a place so he could build a sentry post." It now provided a place for the divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven to rest their feet. Granny Sai, blind, and the rest studied the divine arts in detail, looking pretty entranced. Blind's divine eyes could break down the marvel of all the divine arts, and he explained them to everyone. Their path of cultivation was very different from divine arts practitioners like Qin Mu and Shu Xinghua. To Granny Sai, Butcher, Deaf, and the rest, there was no need to witness divine arts in fights. They just needed to examine their remnants, and they would see their marvel without trouble. They could then absorb the essence of the divine arts to make up for what they were lacking. The divine arts of these gods and devils are still rough and require improvement. Granny Sai checked the one before her carefully and shook her head. Because the divine arts practitioners of eternal peace had no way to become gods for 20,000 years, we instead used that time to improve all kinds of divine arts until they were incomparably exquisite. We created new ones all the time, so our divine arts are much more exquisite than those of Supreme Emperor Heaven. Yet their cultivation methods are more powerful than ours, and their techniques can train all aspects of their corporeal body, Blind said after another examination. For gods and devils to execute such rough divine arts and be able to unleash such inconceivable power, their corporeal bodies, primordial spirits, and the density of their vital qi have to be much stronger than those of people from eternal peace. Mua, don't underestimate them just because you are the Overlord body. Qin Mu nodded solemnly and said respectfully, "Don't worry, Grandpa Blind. I won't underestimate anybody." Hu Linga hesitated for a moment, but didn't make a sound. Blind and the rest had just come to Supreme Emperor Heaven, so they still didn't know what Qin Mu had done. After the battle in Li City, he was already the strongest divine arts practitioner of 7 Stars Realm in Supreme Emperor Heaven. He had even experienced running 100,000 miles, while killing almost all of the devil god disciples of 7 Stars and 6 Directions Realm. No random strong devil practitioner of Celestial Being Realm would dare to fight with him recklessly. As long as one went to ask around, they would know about Qin Mu's fame. Suddenly, he went still as he looked at a shadow in the ruins. It moved around in the ruins, as though the divine arts there had no effect on him. "Mua, what are you looking at?" Deaf asked curiously. Qin Mu's body trembled slightly, and he suddenly left everyone to run toward the shadow. The elders of disabled elderly village were shocked as there were divine arts left behind by gods everywhere. If he was to touch any one of them by accident, he wouldn't be able to handle the consequences. If a chain reaction was invoked and all of the divine arts in without embroiling city exploded, then even they might not barge in recklessly. Blind hurriedly gave chase while shouting, "You guys stay here, I'll find him." Qin Mu activated 9 Heavens Eyes Awakening skill all the way to avoid the remnant divine arts, while getting closer and closer to the shadow. It appeared faintly discernible in the restricted area, as though it was flowing sand, scattering and gathering from time to time. However, the shadow also seemed to have noticed him, for it suddenly stopped. Qin Mu avoided the last remnant of the divine arts between them and stopped in front of the black shadow, looking at the other party with his eyes bright and face full of excitement. The black shadow was also staring at him with curiosity. Neither of them could see the other's appearance, only the body which was like black sand. Qin Mu stretched out his hand, and the shadow did the same. The 2 palms touched, then without any resistance passed through each other. Qin Mu's body trembled, and he froze as he looked at the figure silently. Blind quickly came to his side and pulled him away, while saying solemnly, "Mua, this shadow should be a remnant of a divine art by some god or devil. Why are you so careless? Why did you barge into this restricted area?" Rustling sounds that sounded like a monster whispering in the darkness reached them, and the 2 of them looked at the shadow in astonishment. It was the shadow's voice. Grandpa blind, he isn't a remnant of a divine art, but a person. The astonishment hadn't dispersed from Qin Mu's face when he muttered, like me, he can travel in the darkness of great ruins. He is like me. Only a devil blending with the darkness can be seen by a person in Supreme Emperor Heaven. I think I might have encountered the Overlord body of the devil race. Strange, why did it appear in great ruins? The time of great ruins hadn't matched that of Supreme Emperor Heaven, and because its algebra was too bad, the sun's cycles didn't even consist of 24 hours. Because of that, the day and night times of Supreme Emperor Heaven weren't accurate. After Qin Mu had destroyed one of the suns, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor forged a sun which used the 24-hour cycle of Eternal Peace Empire. However, Imperial Preceptor had an obsessive-compulsive disorder, so he tried to perfect everything. The moment the sun lit up, it matched the sun of eternal peace. This meant that the moment the darkness descended on great ruins was also matched without a second's difference. It was night time in great ruins at that moment. There were only two ways to travel in the darkness of great ruins. Otherwise, the person would die miserably from either a curse or being eaten by monsters in the darkness. The first way to not fear such fate was to have abilities akin to those of a god. The second way was to have been born in Yudu, like Qin Mu had done. The first method required for a strong practitioner to use their god's aura to force back the darkness. The second method, however, required to have an unusual birth, like that of Qin Mu's, so when he entered the darkness, the curse and the monsters weren't able to hurt him. With the first method, the strong practitioners that entered the darkness of great ruins wouldn't be able to see Supreme Emperor Heaven, and the people in Supreme Emperor Heaven wouldn't be able to see them either. But with the latter, they would be able to walk through Supreme Emperor Heaven and the people there would be able to see them as a shadow, something made of black sand. Qin Mu had gotten to know Sanghua through this method. However, even though the latter could allow one to see people of Supreme Emperor Heaven, they couldn't communicate or pass any useful information. Still, upon seeing another person that could walk through the darkness of great ruins, Qin Mu couldn't help becoming shocked. King Yama and Earth Count said that I'm the first life form that was born in Yudu, so could it be that there were other people born in Yudu after me? Why didn't Earth Count mention that? Puzzled, he examined the shadow while being examined by the other as well. The person seemed to be thinking of something. The two of them circled each other, trying to find some clues. Qin Mu stopped and that shadow also stopped. It then turned its head around to say something, but the words weren't clear. He should have someone beside him. Qin Mu's heart trembled slightly. But that person isn't walking in the darkness. He's forcing the darkness back, so I can't see them. The shadow suddenly turned and leaped as though he was flying before vanishing. Qin Mu didn't give chase since the other party was in great ruins. If he wanted to hide, there were many ways, and he could just vanish by entering a ruin. Overlord body of the devil race. How did he appear in great ruins? Impossible. He definitely has a devil god level existence beside him, but if a devil god wanted to pass through spirit energy mutual shift bridge, they would have definitely been discovered. He was confused and muttered, could there be other ways to enter great ruins? There were many secrets in great ruins. Qin Mu had once even entered High Emperor era. He had also gone to Yudu from Ghost Valley and even visited Fengdu thrice. This showed that great ruins indeed link to other worlds. God Sang Yi and the rest referred to great ruins as founding Emperor Celestial Heavens, so there are still numerous secrets waiting for me to be discovered. I can ask official sovereign of Yudu. Qin Mu roused his spirit, and his body trembled. A gate of heaven influence appeared behind him, and the door slowly opened. The devil chi of Yudu poured out, making the darkness darker. Blind frowned slightly, but after thinking about it, he didn't stop Qin Mu. Mua is always full of ideas. Might as well not bother him, and see what he plans to do. Qin Mu composed himself, and the drawn-out cadence of Yudu devil language came from his mouth. He only chanted it, and didn't execute soul guide. After a moment, a lamp shone from within Gate of Heaven influence. When Blind looked into the gate, he saw a small boat sailing over from the darkness. The light had come from the lantern at the bow of the boat. Messenger of Death. Blind was astonished, and Divine Spear Long Tuor behind him gave a low dragon roar as it became incomparably nervous. Grandpa Blind, Senior Long Tuor, there's no need to be nervous. This is benevolent saintly king equal to Heaven of Yudu, a big shot in Yudu. He is referred to as Yudu official sovereign, Qin Mu explained. Blind stared with his eyes wide open, and his heart trembling violently. Mua has even hooked up with Yudu. And even the official sovereign of Yudu. Just a few days of not seeing him, and this brat has become so much more capable. Even so, he still didn't dare to relax. Long Tuor changed into his spear form and coiled around him, ready to strike at any time. You again. A paper boat sailed out from Gate of Heaven influence, and the lantern was taken down. The elder on the boat was expressionless, as he hid behind the light, which he shone on Qin Mu's face. The elder's voice was emotionless when he spoke. Don't create trouble and use Yudu language for no reason, it's not good for you. Be careful of touching the seal, or one day it will be too late for you to regret. Qin Mu hurriedly gave an apologetic smile and said, Official Sovereign, I have invited you this time. Elder Messenger of Death shook his head and said, You didn't invite me, your words forced me to come without giving me a choice. Did you create more trouble again? What is it? Speak your mind. As long as it doesn't touch the rules of Yudu, I can help you solve whatever you want, but if it's too difficult, then farewell. Blind's eyes lit up, and he looked at the face of the elder behind the lantern. But no matter what, he couldn't see the appearance of the official sovereign, making him astonished. His cultivation had already improved by a lot, and he had also crossed the divine bridge to stand outside Southern Heavenly Gate. The power of his divine eyes had also naturally increased, yet he was still unable to see the face of the official sovereign. This showed that his abilities were immeasurable. Mua is actually friends with benevolent saintly king equal to heaven. Blind exclaimed to himself in admiration. Mua is indeed like me, with friends everywhere in the world. He didn't forget my many years of teaching. Qin Mu voiced his two guesses. May I ask, official sovereign, after I was born, was there a second life form that was born in Yudu? And was that person also born from the womb? Elder Messenger of Death sneered. After one Qin Fengqing, how would we dare to let a second Qin Fengqing be born? One such a fiendish and mischievous fellow is already tormenting us more than enough. After you were born, Earth Count examined all realms of Yudu, so there would be no second one. Qin Mu was puzzled. In that case, why could this shadow enter the darkness of great ruins like me? You mentioned two guesses, but you don't know about the third possibility, Elder Messenger of Death said. The darkness in great ruins is a curse and also a seal. It wasn't born from nothing, but was created by someone. The maker of the darkness in great ruins can naturally walk through it. Qin Mu's body trembled and his mind was blown. Elder Messenger of Death was right. The maker of the darkness in great ruins could certainly enter the darkness without being harmed by it. Just then, he'd had the misconception of meeting his own kind, so he'd guessed it was an overlord body from Yudu, and didn't consider other options. But now that he thought about it, the shadow should have been a youth. His speed wasn't very fast, making it obvious that his cultivation hadn't reached the god realm yet. If the shadow youth was related to the maker of the darkness in great ruins, maybe was his successor, and was proficient in the curse and seal of the darkness, he would definitely have a method to not be harmed by the darkness after entering it. I've solved your question for you. Elder Messenger of Death boarded his paper boat and hung the lantern on the bow. He turned the boat and said coldly, "Don't speak Yudu language for no reason. I was doing a job, collecting Huachuluo's soul, when I heard your voice. My own soul was almost scared out by you. If you create any more trouble, just wait for your comeuppance after dying." After he said that, he pushed the little boat to sail back into Gate of Heaven influence. Qin Mu hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, "Official sovereign, after I die, I'll bring good food and toys for you." "I don't need them," a stiff voice said from within Gate of Heaven influence. "Mua, you sure have a knack for making friends. They're all around the world, even in Yudu," Blind praised sincerely. "I can see this benevolent saintly king equal to heaven likes you very much. This is all thanks to Grandpa Blind's teachings. I have listened to them and upheld myself as a humble person, only then was I able to receive the favor of official sovereign," Qin Mu said humbly. "You don't have it." The voice of Elder Messenger of Death came from far away, and sounded very faint. Qin Mu and Blind pretended they had never heard anything and flattered each other. At this moment, they were both glowing with vigor, and Qin Mu shut the Gate of Heaven influence before pondering. Why would the disciple of the Maker of Darkness appear in great ruins? For what matter would they enter it? Blind put away his divine spear long to or back, and walked in the direction of Granny Sai and the rest. He said calmly, "Because of Eternal Peace's reform, all kinds of monsters are coming out. Numerous stone statues and meteorological weapons have popped up everywhere, even if they show no signs of activity for now. The divine weapons have been taken away by Imperial Preceptor to be sealed up, so it's natural that there are people coming out to take a look. You don't have to worry too much. Great ruins are safe and won't be in any danger. On the other hand, Eternal Peace needs to be more careful." Qin Mu placed this matter aside temporarily. Beside the disciple of the Maker of the Darkness should have been a god. It was just that Qin Mu didn't know if it was a god or a devil. The two were a danger, whatever the case. However, Eternal Peace was no longer what it was in the past. It had numerous experts, and there were a few gods that stayed behind to guard it. Emperor Yangfeng was also in the capital, so there shouldn't be too many problems. The two figures we saw were very strange. In the darkness of great ruins, a youth similar in age to Qin Mu stopped and said to a towering god beside him. That youth examined me, seemingly astonished by my appearance, but he didn't find it weird, as though he had seen such a thing before. "Sun Sovereign, that person is somewhat suspicious." Beside him, a god with 3 legs blazed with fire. The wings behind his back made him look like a moving sun. His voice rumbled when he said, "Young Master Qi is overthinking. I have come down from the sun to assist you in finding that youth called Qin Mu, but may I ask what has this person done?" News from Yudu say that he is a devil born in Yudu, who was later exiled to Eternal Peace. The higher-ups view this as important, but they can't send the celestial troops and generals down to the lower bound, so they sent me to seize him. The higher-ups don't trust the devils, and Lu Li certainly has her own plans. She wants to seize this Qin Mu and become one of the overlords in Yudu. The other reason the higher-ups sent me is to activate the meteorological weapons and plunge Eternal Peace into disaster as soon as possible. The 3-legged Sun Sovereign frowned. The meteorological divine weapons were all taken by Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, and no one knows where they were hidden. Young Master Qi was unconcerned and just smiled leisurely. Isn't this Qin Mu that's born in Yudu the biggest meteorological divine weapon? Once we break his seal, he will destroy Eternal Peace by himself. This task couldn't be more simple. Sun Sovereign's body trembled violently, and he praised with heartfelt emotion, "Young Master Qi is wise." This video will end here.